Morning guys, Dave Canterbury back out here with our Inkle Loom in part 3 of our Inkle Loom series. And what I wanted to do today was, A, I want to show you how to finish off a project. B, I would like to show you what I'm going to use this project for. And then I want to go into a little more detail on making these heddle strings because I didn't do that very well in the last video. I've got a handmade Civil War era style canteen here that's just made out of tin. And it's got strap loops that are made of tin around the canteen so that you can wrap a strap around this canteen to carry it, but it doesn't have a strap. So we're going to use this strap in the canteen, and the strap's going to be just about the right length, or just right width for this, but it's going to be a little long, so we'll probably need to cut it down some. Not a big deal. Now, let's look at first how we made these heddle strings so that you understand that. Okay, when I made these heddle strings, all I did was take a piece of hemp cordage and I wrapped it around these two pegs up to this top, and I just tied that off in a square knot. And I left myself some tail up there. I just tied it off just like this. And I did that as many times as I was going to need heddle cords. When I was done with that, I took and I trimmed all of the tails off at the top, and then I pulled those heddle cords off and they were loops. So when you fold that loop in half, you have part of it on the string and the other two loops go around this heddle, just like this. And then this one would go up on the string. So you'd wrap one side of that loop over the string, bring the other side of the loop down, and you've got two cords together right there holding your heddle strings in place, just like these are. Okay, very simple process, but I didn't explain that very well. Now, let's look at the project because I've almost got this one finished. Okay, as we come to the end of this project, you can see that this initial split that comes off of this project where we started it is going to come up and run into this peg, and you're not going to be able to go any further than that. So that's going to be your stopping point. We've got a little more area here that we can go ahead and weave in. Okay, so once we've got this project to the point where this is about to hit this, we're not going to be able to weave any further. So at that point, we're going to cut this project off. And the only thing we're going to do is we're going to split the difference between here and here, basically, and we're just going to cut the threads, and that's going to become our tail. Now, if you remember right, I had 10 threads that I started out with. I had 10 warps that I started out with on this thing, and the reason I did that was so that I end up with an odd number of threes, or with a number of threes in the end, because this 11th will be tied off and the outside string here will be tied off here, and that will leave 9 strings hanging down at the bottom, which will leave me 3 groups of 3, and I can braid that off to finish the strap. So let's get this cut off of here. So again, all I'm going to do is split the difference here and cut these off just like this. And then I'll pull these out of my heddle cords and set the heddle cords aside. I don't want them to get lost because I can reuse them anytime I'm using this loom. So I'll just set those aside over here where I had them before we started. Okay, so we've pulled our project off the loom, and just to let you know what length this is, I'll just go by pulls. There's 1 pull, 2 pulls, so that's about 10, 11 feet, and I got a little bit more hanging over my hand. So I'm guessing this is somewhere between 10 and 12 feet without measuring it. Any place I did a splice, now I can just come in and trim those off short, just like that, close. And I should have both ends tied off in a loose square knot from where I started and where I ended. And everything else is the strap, and it's only showing that white cord or that tan cord on the outside seam. Everything else is only showing the warp, which is all solid green. Okay, so what I did was I ran this strap through my canteen loops, and I ran 2 of them crossways through the bottom. It's got 1, 2, 3 of those loops. Now I've got to figure out, this strap is going to be way too long for this canteen, so I'm just going to pull it down to figure out where it really needs to be as far as the length of the strap to go over my shoulder. Then I'm probably going to have enough left over on this thing to make a set of leg ties with as well, that I can trade to someone else or something, so that they're not an exact match to my canteen strap, but I can trade them off to someone else for something else that I need. And these will just overlap, and we'll finish this off down at the bottom, and I'll show you how we're going to do that in a minute. But we need to figure out the length first, so we'll just throw this thing over our shoulder, figure out where we want it to hang, and we'll pull those through to that point. So we'll pull these straps through here in opposite directions with an even amount of overhang until we get this canteen hanging exactly where we want it. Once we know where we want it, then we can cut these straps off. And you can see I've got plenty left here for a set of leg ties. So everybody hates to cut a weaving project, but I'm going to go ahead and cut this right here just like this. I'll finish these two off later together to make a set of leg ties. I'll show you that. But first we'll finish off this canteen and we'll get it set the way we want it. Now we're just going to basically take these weaves out here and unwind this to give ourselves those tails again that we're going to braid, and tie it off just like we did before. And that's just going to take a little bit of separation with our fingers to do that. Okay, so I just did all this with the canteen on my body here, and I've got the two ends finished up just like they would have been finished had they come off the loom. I have 9 strings hanging out of here, 9 strings hanging out of here. I've tied two of the warps together and left the weft hanging, tied 2 of the warps together and left the weft hanging here, which gives me 9 strings here and 9 strings here. And I can trim off this knot close that I tied a square knot in right here. I can tie that and cut that off close, just like this, so it's shorter than the rest. And do the same thing over here, so that it's shorter than the rest. And then we'll finish that up by braiding these together, which will pull that just like this, and we'll braid that down right there, and that will be our connection. That gives me a little bit of extra room. It hangs a little bit lower now than I want it to hang in the end, but that's okay, because if I have thicker clothing on, it's going to raise that up a little bit, and in the end, if I want to, I can pull that out just a little bit and just slide a stick in there for an adjustment. Not a big deal. So we'll get that braided and finished off right now. Okay, so I just pinched those 2 tails down. I pulled them through the canteen a little bit, pinched them down with a board to the table here, and I'm going to take 2 from one strap, like on the top, and 2 from the bottom, just like that. And I'm just going to braid those together in over, under, over, under, over, under fashion, just like this. And that will weave the 2 straps together when I get that done. It's a pretty simple process to braid. If you don't know how to do this, ask your sister. And I just need to leave myself enough tail in the end to tie an overhand knot in this, or I can tie an overhand knot at the end of the braid if I braid it all the way down. Doesn't really matter. You get down to the shortest string, and I get the shortest string braided in, just like that. And then I'll just tie an overhand knot here and put all of that braided material through there like that, and draw that knot down to the end, just like that. And when I'm done with all of these cords, this strap will be connected together. Okay, so when I got done with that, I just whipped the end of it with a piece of hemp, same hemp cordage I was using for my heddle cord. I just whipped it real quick right there to hold it tight. Here's all my braided together portions here. And then I just pulled it tight into that loop and pulled it up. And now I have a nice strap for my Civil War era canteen. Now all I need to do is finish those leg garters, and that project is complete. And I'll finish them in almost exactly the same fashion. Well folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with the Pathfinder School, and I appreciate you joining me out here for this video today, finishing up a project on the Inkle Loom. I'll try to get the Inkle Loom built in the next video, but I may put another weaving video before that, waiting on materials. I have to leave the property to go get materials to make another loom, and I may not get a chance to do that before I make another video. I'd like to show you how to do this process in the woods without building a loom. So stay tuned for that video as well. I appreciate your support, your views. I appreciate everything that you do for our school, for our family, for our business, for everything that you do for my sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.